I just learned that without informing me, Ed made a video claiming that I was doing some mad ravings, slandering him. So let's take a look at what I actually said versus what he said, and then let's look at the facts. I warned him that he needed 60 days. He never does wait when I warn him like this, and so now I'm just going to have to shut him down. And you're going to see it live on screen right now in his own words, okay? Let's start here. This is where the comments in my KJVO challenge were sourced, where I started to conclusively know and prove that everything Ed says about being under my pastor and about having studied the Greek is a lie. And we're going to prove it pretty quickly, unfortunately, because he didn't do his homework, and since he's a bad liar, he doesn't cover his tracks. But you can see on screen, this is the KJVO challenge video, so you can watch it yourself. And we're going to come down here to... And I've got screenshots of this, so if you want me to go slower or you want to see the screenshots, just let me know. I'll upload them. But this is where he starts his answer to the first challenge. Okay, the first challenge is indeed Titus 1:12. Okay, that I quoted part of that verse in the first challenge, only part of it. And the challenge was to translate the Greek, which Ed never does, nobody ever has yet, and use the meter at the same time. The second part of the challenge was to say who was the author of that Greek verse. And the third challenge was to, on this first part of it, the third challenge was to say what Bible verse it was in. Well, Ed is only answering what Bible verse it was in. And anybody, you don't even have to be able to read Greek to know that. You just have to know how to search on Greek words. Okay, so if you can search on a Greek word, you know, you can search on any word in the internet. If you just, paste the word, you know how to search on it and find out what it is. Okay, so Ed's answer was, on the first challenge, just the Bible verse, and then the second part of the first challenge is his answer as to who is the author. The trouble is that here you see highlighted Epimendes, and that's not the name of the author. Okay? And this is his answer to the second challenge, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. All right, this is his answer to the second challenge. But we're going to focus on this guy here. First of all, Ed doesn't even spell his name correctly. Now, if he had studied Greek in college, the way he claims, and let's see, where did he say that? Somewhere in here. The link will be in the sidebar as to where he said it, because it's kind of hard to go through all these comments. But he made a comment that he studied Greek in college. But I'm not sure if it's in this one or the other one. I'll put a link in the sidebar. But he made a claim that he studied Greek in college. And he put it in my comments. So if he had studied Greek in college, he would well know who this guy is. He's a very famous Greek guy. Okay? Now, the second thing he claims is that he passed the test and says that there's no meter in the verse. Okay? That in Titus 1:12 there's no meter. And he claims that meter was used in classical Greek, not Koine. And so he's claiming that the verse that I'm challenging in Titus 1:12 is not classical Greek. Okay? Now, if he studied Greek in college, okay, then he would know the difference between classical Greek and non-classical Greek. He's saying that it's Koine Greek. All right? He's saying Titus 1:12 is Koine Greek. Okay, so let's have a look at who this guy is up here. Okay? First of all, his name isn't Epimendes. It's Epimenides. Okay? As you can see, this is the Wikipedia entry for Epimenides. That's the name of the guy who actually speaks the verse that Paul quotes. And this guy is a mythical, semi-mythical guy of what period? 6th century BC. What do you know? That's like about 500s BC, okay? Koine Greek didn't exist back then. The only Greek that existed back then was Doric, Ionic, and Attic, and they're all considered classical Greek because that's what this guy wrote, was classical Greek. He was a famous poet, okay? Versus Alexander, who was the guy who invented classical Greek, who wasn't even born until 356. Alexander invented Koine Greek in order to control his troops. You can find that anywhere on the internet. But just notice that Alexander was born a whole lot later than Epimenides. Okay? And our dear boy, Edward, doesn't know that because he thinks, A, there's no meter, and we're going to cover that in a minute too, and B, that it's Koine. It's not Koine, honey. Koine wasn't invented until 150 years after Epimenides. So you never went to college and studied Greek. Because if you had, you wouldn't have made such a stupid error to pick a guy who you even knew, even though you misspelled it, his name, who lived 150 years before Koine Greek even existed. So the quotation from this guy, all right, is, in fact, Attic Greek, which is verse, and in fact, it's hexameter verse, which is the most famous classical Greek kind of verse, and we'll just search on that. Okay? Hexameter. Dang, dang. That's classical. It's in Horace. And it's also in Greek. In fact, we have to look up dactylic. See, because you don't know anything about Greek, I have to teach it to you. See, here's dactylic hexameter. This is what a dactylic line looks like. Ba 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 ba. Okay? And that's exactly what our dear verse says in what turns out to be Titus 1:12. So let's have a look at Titus 1:12. Okay? Now, since you can't read Greek yet, I'm going to read it to you. Okay? Ipen. That means he said. Okay, this is one of their own says. One of their own prophets. But it's not necessarily a prophet. It also means teachers. Kretese. That's the first line in dactylic hexameter. Dummy. See? Kretese. It's a dactyl. It's called a dactyl in classical Greek poetry. Made famous by the Iliad and the Odyssey and others. See? Considered to be the grand style of classical poetry. It's called a dactyl, dummy. That proves you never went to college because you would have learned this. Kretese. That's the first line. It's a dactyl. Okay? The second line. Suste. That's a spondy. You remember spondy? No, you don't remember spondy because you never learned what a spondy was. See? Spondy. That's 2 syllables. Okay? See? Spondy. This is a spondy. It qualifies as a spondy. Okay? So that's the second syllable here. So the first foot is kretese. The second one is suste, liar. That's you. That's a spondy. The third line is kaka. That's another spondy. Okay, so this is the first foot, second foot, See, hexameter means 6 feet. Kaka is 3rd foot, that's you. Kaka. Thayer. That's considered a spondee also. The ria is considered to be just 1 syllable. Okay? It's another spondee. And then the 5th foot and the 6th foot are here. Gasteres is a dactyl. And arye, that's ending with a trochee. It's called a trochee. Okay, this guy here says it's a spondee, but it's not. It's a trochee in classical Greek. This is classical Greek, jackass. It's a 6-foot hexameter classical Greek. And you know it's classical Greek because Epimenides lived 150 years before Koine was even invented, jackass. So now we have proved that you never studied Greek, that you don't know the difference between Attic and Koine, and that your scholarship is really pretty poor. Okay? Because you didn't even bother to look up, because you just Googled on this, you didn't even bother to look up when that guy was born. And you just walk out, oh, I passed the challenge. No, you didn't. You're the one with a difficult time with reality. See? You said there's no meter in the Greek New Testament. Oh, yeah? I just showed it to you, see? Here it is. This is the Greek New Testament. This is Titus 1:12. And here is classical Greek just sitting there, being quoted by Paul. Okay. Now, this guy, Epimenides, and hexameter, is what you would have had to have studied if you'd studied Greek in college, because Koine Greek comes from Attic Greek, and there are certain changes between Attic Greek and Koine, and you have to know what they are. But you don't, because you just blew it right here. And you never translated it. Well, gee whiz, if you studied it in college, or you ever studied it under my pastor, which I'll get to in a minute, then you would have been able to translate it following the meter in 5 minutes. I can. Watch. Bing. Okay. Cretes. Cretans. See, because I got to follow the meter. A. R, but it's really always. Let's see. What do we want to use for... Well, you have to use more than 1 syllable in English. Always. Okay, so I can't get it to 1 syllable. That's considered 1 syllable in Greek. A. Always. So it's 2 syllables. I can't quite meet the meter. Suste. Liars. That meets the meter. Kaka. Crappy. That's where we get our English crappy from. Thayer. Beasties. Because that's considered 2 syllables in Greek. Gasteres. Okay. Now, gasteres literally means belly, okay, but it has a metaphorical meaning of, how do you want to call it, living for your body, okay? So if you want to say glutton, gasteres is 3 syllables, however, so instead of saying glutton, you could say gluttonous to conform to the 3 syllables, because this is dactyl. Okay, arge, which is mistranslated in the King James. It is not slow. It means idle. Let me show you. It means an idle employee. Somebody not employed who should be. See? Inactive, idle, free from labor, at leisure. Lazy, shunning the labor. Okay? Titus 1:12. Idle gluttons is the way it should have been translated in the King James. Not slow. It's not slow. So idle is 2 syllables, and that's 2 syllables. So it's Cretans. KJVOB, except that's 3 syllables. A. Always. Suste. Liars. Kaka. Crappy. Thayer. Beasties. Gasteres. Gluttonous. Arge. Idle. That way you sort of get the meter. Why couldn't you do that like I did it just now? Ed? Because you never studied it, that's why. And instead, what did you do?